Another way you can find out about what this place is to see us in action, and that includes our giving away of the entire cash collection on a Sunday a month, which is what we'll do in just a moment. This Sunday, the collection goes to Planned Parenthood of Greater Texas. I serve on their board. I've served on the North Texas board before the merger, and now I serve on the Clergy Advocacy Board for Planned Parenthood Federation of America. As part of that work, I have been sitting next to Cecile Richards in meetings for a couple years, and I've said to her, Cecile, you have to come and speak in church, and I might even bring the membership book and ask you to sign it. But I didn't do that. I didn't put her on the spot. But today we have a special guest, and she is Cecile Richards, and we invite her now to come forward and to speak to the church.
Thank you. Well, that was beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Reverend Cantor. It's been great to work with you, and it's wonderful to have him not only as a leader here in this congregation and this community, but also at the national level. Thank you for the beautiful music, all of you who sang this morning. And I love that I get to be here for the Sermon on a Generous Life. I feel like I've come to appreciate so many things about my own life and the opportunity to serve that I feel like I've been called to never more than these last few months. I actually grew up in Dallas, down on Lover's Lane. My dad, Dave Richards, and my mom, Ann Richards, went to the Unitarian Church. I went to preschool here at the First Unitarian Church preschool. Some of you may remember Millie Seltzer, who I think she made me the progressive activist I became. I mean, growing up in Dallas in the 60s, for those of you who did, it was a tough time. And my parents just grabbed hold of this church and every movement that came through town. It was the labor movement or the women's movement. And I remember Mom dragging me down to the A&P to look for the United Farm Workers label on the lettuce to make sure we could buy it. But it was the values of those movements that really lived here in the Unitarian Church. And it's interesting. I feel like it was, and probably still is for many of you, a real safe harbor for folks trying to think about social justice and be involved in the rights of others. It was a place where people of compassion could find love in a community, and my family found it here. So I just want to say, on behalf of all of them, thank you. It's interesting. I was mentioning earlier when we moved to Austin, I joined the Junior LRY, which I know is now called something else, but it was a liberal religious youth at the Unitarian Church there, and it really, I had forgotten this until today, but it was there that I really learned about the anti-war movement. This was during the Vietnam War. For you youngsters, that was something we all fought about way back when, and I remember it was because of the Junior LRY that I learned about the movement to conscientious objection, and I wore a black armband to school. At that point, I was one of the only two kids in the 7th grade, well, the entire high school in Austin, and I got called to the principal's office. And it was the beginning of my activism, and I thought, wow, this feels really powerful. So for so many reasons, I feel like I owe the church pretty much everything. And it's interesting because I do feel like right now, when you're in real struggle and turmoil, as I feel like we are as an organization, we are as a country, about what do we believe, and we are called to lift up, I think, values that are too often in the public space not being spoken about, and also has made me appreciate my parents, because I feel like this is what our elders raised us to do. Today, you're supporting us and the work that we do at Planned Parenthood to care for women and young people and families who come to us every day. Millions of them come every year to Planned Parenthood, and for many of them, there isn't any other place they have to go for basic health care, but also sometimes just to go someplace where people will be non-judgmental and can actually talk to them about their lives and what they need. It's been hard to see here in Texas and experience here in Texas the kind of backlash, I mean, that's an understatement, I suppose, of what's happened to women in this state, whether it was cutting the women's health program and resulting in shutting down of clinics, passing some of the most restrictive abortion laws in the country. And of course, many abortion providers have been forced to close their clinics. We closed many clinics that were just providing basic health care as a result. And there's one person I want to mention who's here today who, through it all, has never wavered and has led this organization here in North Texas, but more importantly, serves on the national board and has been an extraordinary leader. And that's Ken Lambrecht, our CEO here. So I just want to say thank you, Ken, for most recently, you probably know that sort of the last, I never always think it's the last gasp, but it probably isn't. But the last action was that they cut the breast and cervical cancer program that we use at Planned Parenthood to provide health services to thousands of women every year. And of course, many women who come to us don't have the resources to pay for services, and we raise significant patient assistance funds in order to make sure that no one is ever turned away. And that is actually our motto, which is care no matter what. Sometimes it's a promise and sometimes it's a threat. But because of the attacks on women's health, it's not always easy. And I also want to say, they're not here today, but we'll go later to open up a new health center in Plano, Texas. I want to say this is a particularly hard time for the nurses and clinicians and doctors who provide care at Planned Parenthood every single day and often face unspeakable threats, intimidation, harassment, and really never more than in the last few weeks. It's been extraordinary to see the depths to which some folks will go to try to prevent women from accessing health care. So I'm really here today to say thank you. Thank you for standing not only with Planned Parenthood, but more importantly, thank you for standing with the women and families who are counting on us every day. We will be there for them no matter what. Planned Parenthood Greater Texas Patient Assistance Fund supports more than 11,000 people every year who otherwise might go without health care, including cancer screenings, birth control, sexually transmitted infection testing and treatment, and sometimes just well woman visits. This is the first time I've actually been able to be out of Washington, D.C. for the last 6 weeks, and I just have to say, it feels like coming home. So I want to say thank you to First Unitarian for standing with us, for welcoming me, for standing with women who are often marginalized in this community, and knowing that you're here for all of us I can't tell you what it means. So give generously, thank you, and thank you on behalf of all of our patients. Bless.
Please give generously. If you're writing a check, you can write it to the church and write PPGT in the memo line. If you're still writing checks, I don't know. There's also an envelope in the pews in front of you. You can use a QR code to make a donation. You can fill out a credit slip. This is important work. Thank you, Cecile. Thank you, Ken. This is an important moment in the history of our country, and supporting this organization makes all the difference. The offering will be given and received.